I know there's some of you out there who don't watch Dr. Turtleboy, or don't believe Dr. Turtleboy, or just can't stand Dr. Turtleboy. Dun dun dun! But he has already debunked this story, and I'm going to step you through how I debunked it, just to give you the back-end information that you might need, without having to go and listen to Turtleboy. Dun dun dun! So the first thing I did was I went to public records to find out if there's two different Chris Alberts. In fact, I found multiple Chris Alberts. So let's work out which one's which, shall we? Lucky for you guys, I saved you a lot of reading, and I found the federal document, scanned through it until I found the actual address for this defendant, which was 15 Franklin Street, Leominster. Notably, none of the documents give a middle name. The defendant is simply Christopher Albert, not Christopher M. Albert. This is confirmed by searching the Federal Bureau of Prisons inmate by the name of Christopher M. Albert. There are 0 results. However, if I remove the middle name and just have Christopher Albert, bam, then we find the offender. The next thing I want to look at is whether or not Christopher M. Albert Sr., age 53, shares any records in common with Christopher Albert, age 63. And when you look through the address history, they don't share any of the same address history. When you look through the family member history, they don't share any of the same family members. And the same with phone and email. None of those are shared between the two identities. Generally, when someone's creating a false identity, they will share some of these attributes in common, especially family members and especially people they have lived with in the past. Now, since the indictments were for sex offences, I decided to search the National Sex Offender Public website for Chris Albert, not Chris M. Albert, precisely because the Federal Bureau of Prisons didn't list a middle name. Also, before you get your knickers in a knot about the date and time of the search, we are in the future here, don't forget. So it is currently Monday the 12th in Australia. Anyway, the first result we get is a Christopher Albert, age 63, not 53, at 121 Blossom Street, Worcester. And as you can see, that does not look like our D&E Pizza Chris Albert guy. In fact, if I open up the record, it tells us that he has 6 convictions listed on 4 different rows under different jurisdictions. But we can see the most recent one there that he served time for, which is this federal indictment we were just looking at. And we see that his date of birth is indeed 1961. He's 6'3" with blue eyes, looks nothing like our Chris Albert. He's currently listed as a level 3 sex offender, and here are 3 different photos of the same fellow, dated 2009, so just before he was released, 2010, which I think he might have been released in 2011 unless he got out on parole, 2011, and of course the thumbnail on the cover is 2017, which is probably closer to what he looks like today. So, you can argue just because Turtleboy said it isn't so doesn't make it not so. This is your proof. Stop with the rumours. For those who want to follow the process, there's hundreds of free public records searches that you can do. You can't dig into the actual character unless you pay, but you can see the general results just as I've shown you here. The sex offender registry is free for everybody. And I would assume because you all live in America, you probably have more access to more sites than I do here in Australia, because many of them ban the IP address unless it's in America. And no, I can't hide my IP address behind the NBN. First of all, I don't want to bring attention to myself by doing that. And second of all, the NBN actually reroutes it back through an Australian server anyway, so you still end up with a connection to an Australian IP address. Yeah, I know, it sounds like we live in Russia. Some days I wonder myself. Anyway, that's the short and curlies. The Chris Albert in the federal indictments is not the D&E Pizza Chris Albert. 2 completely different characters. 2 completely set of previous addresses, and 2 completely different date of births. And if you came up with something different, it's because you made the same mistake that everybody makes with the shoes. You're looking for confirmation bias, things that confirm the bias you already started searching with. I'd hazard a guess that you pushed these records aside because they didn't have Christopher M. Albert in them, which is a specific character you were trying to match them with, right? And just to wrap up, I show you these tips and tools so that you can go out and do your own research. You don't have to take my word for anything, even what colour the shoe sole is. You can go and research. You have a torch, you have a cell phone, you have a pair of shoes. You've got your own lab in your own home, plus I give you all the extra tools in my videos to go and look for yourself. But you have to start with an open mind. If you start with bias, you end up in the wrong place. Oh wait, isn't that what happened with the Karen Reed saga altogether? She would never have been arrested if they didn't start out with bias, right?